Have you ever noticed how anger can suddenly arise, taking over you like a storm that explodes without warning? In that moment, it feels like the whole world has conspired to irritate you, to challenge you, to test your limits. But what if I told you that the anger you feel is not really about what happened outside, but about something much deeper happening inside? Anger is merely the reflection of a mind that is still asleep, a mind that has not awakened to the true nature of existence. When we react with fury, when we explode in the face of life's provocations, we are not responding to reality. We are responding to our own dreams, to our interpretations, to the stories we tell ourselves about how things should be. And it is precisely in that should be that all our suffering resides, all our frustration accumulated over the years. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you been furious because someone did not act the way you expected? How many times have you felt that destructive energy coursing through your body because reality dared to be different from the script you had written in your head? The mind that is still asleep lives trapped in these expectations, in these silent demands we make of the universe, as if we had the right to dictate how things should happen. Anger, therefore, is not strength. Although many confuse this feeling with power, it is exactly the opposite. Anger is disguised weakness. It is the mind's inability to accept what is. It is the desperate resistance against the current of life, as if you could stop a river by shouting at it, as if your harsh words could change the course of the waters. But the river does not care. Life does not care. It simply flows. And when you resist, when you fight against this natural current, you hurt yourself. Anger is the signal that you are struggling against something that has already happened, against something you can no longer change. It is like trying to extinguish a fire after the house has already turned to ashes. But the sleeping mind does not realize this. It keeps reacting, keeps exploding, keeps feeding this cycle of suffering that seems endless. And the more you feed the anger, the more it grows, the more it becomes part of who you believe you are. You begin to identify with this emotion, to carry it like a badge, as if it were an unchangeable characteristic of your personality. But here's the truth that can completely transform your experience. Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep because it arises from the illusion of separation. When you awaken, when you truly wake up to the interconnected nature of all things, anger simply finds no fertile ground to grow. You realize that the person who irritated you is just living their own confusion, their own sleep. You understand that the situation that made you furious is just another wave in the infinite ocean of existence, and that you do not need to drown in it. The awakened mind observes anger arising as it would observe a cloud passing through the sky. It notices, it recognizes, but it does not cling, does not identify, does not feed. And thus naturally anger dissolves, loses its strength, disappears like mist under the morning sun. But to reach this state, you must first recognize that you are asleep. You need to admit that a large part of your life has been lived on autopilot, blindly reacting to external stimuli without ever questioning the true origin of these reactions. Anger is the reflection of a mind that is still asleep because it is based on unconscious thoughts, on repetitive patterns that you inherited, that you learned, that you absorbed without questioning. Since childhood, you have been taught to protect your ego, to defend your territory, to fight for what is yours. And this programming runs so deep that you do not even realize when you are being controlled by it. You believe you are choosing to be angry, but in reality, you are just following an old script, an automatic response recorded in the depths of your being. Awakening is breaking the script, interrupting the pattern, creating a space between stimulus and response where consciousness can finally enter. In that space resides all the freedom you have ever sought. In that space, you are no longer a slave to your emotions. You become the conscious observer of them. And when you observe, when you truly see anger for what it is, a reflection, a shadow, an illusion, it completely loses its power over you. So the next time you feel anger beginning to boil inside you, pause for a moment. Do not suppress it. Do not pretend it is not there, but also do not let it carry you away. Simply observe. Ask yourself, what is really happening here? Is this anger about what happened now or about something much older? Is this emotion serving me or imprisoning me? Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep, and you have the power to wake up at any moment. Not tomorrow, not after you solve all your problems, but now, at this very instant. Awakening is not a grand event that happens only for a few enlightened ones. It is a choice you make moment by moment, the choice to be present, to be conscious, to be truly awake to life as it is, not as you would like it to be. If this content resonates with you, if something here is touching that deep part that recognizes the truth when it hears it, be part of this community. Subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of awakening. Leave your like so that more people can find these words. And in the comments, share which city you are watching from. Let's create a network of consciousness around the world, one person at a time. There is an ancient wisdom that says that what you resist the most is exactly what you need to integrate the most. The anger you feel towards certain people, certain situations, certain aspects of life is often the anger you feel towards unaccepted parts of yourself. The mind that is still asleep cannot see this because it is constantly projecting outward what it does not want to recognize within. When you point a finger at someone and feel that wave of indignation, judgment, moral fury, what you are really doing is illuminating a shadow that exists within you. That characteristic you so despise in others, that behavior that drives you crazy, that attitude that makes you completely beside yourself, all these external triggers are simply reflecting something internal that you have not yet had the courage to look at directly. Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep, because the awakened mind recognizes that everything that exists outside also exists within, that there is no real separation between observer and observed, that we are all part of the same cosmic dance expressing itself in infinitely different ways. When you deeply understand this, not intellectually but experientially, anger begins to transform into compassion. You look at that person who used to irritate you and see not an enemy, not a problem, but a mirror. You see someone who is also asleep, someone who is also trapped in their own patterns, in their own unhealed wounds. And in that recognition, something magical happens. The energy that you once spent feeding anger now transforms into understanding, into acceptance, into love. Not a romantic or sentimental love, but a love that recognizes shared humanity, shared vulnerability, shared sleep. The sleeping mind sees enemies everywhere. The awakened mind sees only different versions of itself, all trying to find their way back home, back to peace, back to the truth of what we really are, beyond all the roles and identities we assume. But awakening does not mean you will never feel anger again. It means you will no longer be possessed by it. There is a huge difference between feeling an emotion and being consumed by it, between noticing a feeling arise and allowing it to completely define who you are in that moment. Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep when you completely identify with it, when you believe you are that anger, when you act from that unconscious state, causing harm that you will later regret. But when you are awake, anger can appear as a fleeting sensation, as a momentary reaction of the body, and you simply observe it with curiosity, without judgment, without drama. You do not need to suppress it because suppression only pushes the emotion deeper, creating an internal ticking time bomb. You also do not need to express it blindly because unconscious expression only perpetuates the cycle of suffering. You simply allows it to be there, gives space for it, breathes through it, and naturally it dissipates like smoke in the wind. This is the paradox that the logical mind struggles to comprehend. The more you try to control your emotions, the more they control you. The more you fight against anger, the more it persists. But when you stop fighting, when you relax into that resistance, when you allow the experience to be exactly what it is, without adding your stories, your judgments, your interpretations, something extraordinary happens. The emotion moves through you like a wave through the ocean, and you remain like the ocean, vast, deep, unaffected by the temporary disturbance of the surface. Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep, but you are not the mind. You are the awareness that is aware of the mind. You are the space in which all thoughts and emotions appear and disappear. When you recognize this, when you truly understand this not as a concept, but as a lived reality, you become free in a way that no external achievement could ever provide. Think of how many times you have hurt the people you love because of anger. How many words would you like to take back? How many actions would you like to undo? How many moments would you like to relive with more awareness? Anger has a very high cost, not just for others, but mainly for yourself. Every time you explode, every time you allow that destructive energy to take over, you are strengthening a neural pattern in your brain. You are making it more likely that this will happen again next time. It's like a path in the forest. The more you walk it, the more defined it becomes, the easier it is to follow it automatically. But the good news is that you can create new paths, you can establish new patterns, you can train your mind to respond in healthier, more conscious ways, more aligned with who you really want to be. This doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen because you decided once that you will change. It happens through constant practice, through mindfulness moment by moment, through the repeated choice to awaken instead of continuing to sleep. Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep because it arises from a fundamental ignorance about the nature of reality. You believe you are a separate, isolated entity that needs to constantly defend itself against a hostile world. But this belief is the greatest illusion of all. You are not separate. You never were. You are an integral part of everything that exists, connected to every person, every tree, every star through an invisible web of consciousness that permeates all existence. When you hurt another, you hurt yourself. When you carry anger in your heart, you carry poison in your own being. Awakening is seeing through this illusion of separation and recognizing the fundamental unity of all things. And in that recognition, anger simply no longer makes sense. How can you be angry at yourself? How can you attack what you recognize as an inseparable part of your own being? Compassion is not a moral choice when you awaken. It is simply the natural response of a heart that has finally understood the truth. There is an ancient story about a master and his disciple. One day, the disciple arrived completely distraught, filled with anger over something that had happened in the market. He recounted in detail how he had been wronged, how he had been mistreated, how he had every right to be furious. The master listened to him in silence and then asked, "If someone tries to give you a gift and you do not accept it, who keeps the gift?" The disciple replied, confused, "With the one who tried to give it, of course." And the master smiled, "Exactly. If someone offers you anger, insult, disrespect, and you do not accept it, who keeps all of that?" In that moment, something clicked in the disciple's mind. He realized he was voluntarily carrying a burden that didn't even need to be his. Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep, because the awakened mind recognizes that you always have the choice to accept or not what is offered to you, whether it is a pleasant gift or a poison disguised as provocation. But this choice only becomes possible when there is awareness, when there is space between what happens and how you respond. Most people live in a state of constant reactivity, like automatic machines programmed to respond in predictable ways to predictable stimuli. Someone insults you, you retaliate. Someone cuts you off in traffic, you honk furiously. Someone does not meet your expectation, you explode in frustration. These reactions are so automatic, so instantaneous, that you don't even realize there is a choice, that there is a different possibility. Anger arises, and immediately you are swept away by it, as if it were an inevitable force of nature. But it is not. Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep, and awakening means creating that sacred space where true freedom resides. In that space, you can feel the impulse of anger arise and consciously choose not to feed it, not to follow it, not to allow it to dictate your actions. You can breathe deeply, observe the sensation in your body, recognize the thoughts that arise, and still choose to respond in a way that you will not regret later. This is not weakness. This is not allowing people to trample you or letting the world use you. This is true strength. It is the strength of someone who is no longer a slave to their own emotions, who is no longer controlled by external circumstances, who maintains their center even when everything around is in chaos. Think of the great enlightened beings in history, the spiritual masters who faced persecution, injustices, unimaginable suffering, and yet remained at peace, still responded with love, still did not allow external darkness to extinguish their inner light. They were not superhuman. They were fully human, but completely awakened. They had understood that anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep, and then they awakened to a completely different way of being in the world. A way where you no longer need to prove anything, defend anything, attack anything. Where you simply are in this presence, this unwavering peace, becomes your greatest contribution to a world that is desperately in need of more awareness. You may be wondering, but how do I do this? How do I awaken? And the answer is simultaneously simple and challenging. You start by paying attention. You start noticing when anger arises, without judgment, without trying to suppress it immediately, but also without letting yourself be carried away by it. You create the habit of pausing, breathing, observing what is happening inside you before reacting automatically. You begin to question your thoughts, to investigate your beliefs, to examine the patterns that have governed your life for so long that you don't even remember when they started. Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep. And each moment of awareness, each instant of presence, each choice to respond instead of react is a step toward awakening. There is no magic path, no secret shortcut. There is only constant practice, renewed intention moment by moment, the decision to live awake instead of remaining in the comfortable sleep of unawareness. And yes, you will fail. You will have moments when anger will dominate you again, when you will react in the old way, when you will forget everything you have learned. This is part of the process. This is human. Awakening is not a final destination where you arrive and never face challenges again. It is a continuous journey, a constant unfolding, an endless practice. But each time you stumble and rise again with awareness, each time you realize you have slept and choose to awaken again, you are strengthening your ability to remain present, to remain aware, to remain free. Anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep, but you do not have to remain asleep forever. You can awaken now, not tomorrow, not after your life gets organized, not when circumstances improve. Now, in this very moment, as you absorb these words, you can choose to see anger in a completely different way, not as your enemy, not as something to be eliminated, but as a teacher pointing exactly where you still need to bring more light, more awareness, more love. So let this be your invitation. Observe your anger without judgment. Investigate its roots. Question the stories you tell yourself about why you have the right to be furious. And in the space that opens when you do this, discover a freedom that no external circumstance can give you or take away. Because in the end, anger is just the reflection of a mind that is still asleep, and you have the power to awaken at any moment. The choice has always been and will always be yours. If these reflections have touched something deep within you, if you feel ready to continue this journey of awakening, join this community. Subscribe to the channel to receive more content that can transform your way of seeing life. Leave your like so that these messages reach more people who need to hear them. And share in the comments which city you are watching us from. Each one of us who awakens makes it a little easier for others to wake up as well. Let's create together a wave of consciousness that transforms not only our individual lives, but the entire world around us.